Hello.
Hey, everybody. Author Jerri B Tyler Brown going live about just wanting to chat and answer some questions about the book, Rhythms of a Mother and Son. We published the book in 2018, and here we are 2 years later. I'm just
2018?
Yes.
Wow.
And we are just connecting to the point where we're sitting down at the same time to answer questions and share the experience of this book. So, anything you want to say before we get started?
If you've read this book, I want you to know you're a special person just because you read it. Because this is a special book.
It is. I would agree with that. So currently our ages, I am about to be 43 this weekend, and Tyler 18. All right, so keep that in mind as we answer these questions. So this was published 2 years ago. I think we started writing it in 2016.
Yeah.
Which was 4 years ago. So Tyler was 14, 15, in that age range as far as, his words and all of that. So,
hey.
It was a real thing. It
There
was happening. It was happening. All right, you want to do one first, or shall I? Okay.
Would you suggest this for other teens and their parents?
The book?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you?
I mean, I would, but I feel like I would suggest it in a way to give them insight on certain things. Like when it comes to the actual conversation between parents and their kids, It's always a disconnect because parents are like, I know this. Kids like, I know something, but it's just.
So you don't feel like parents know something?
I feel like parents believe their knowledge to be greater and more factual than their kids, which is true to an extent.
Okay.
I don't feel like all of it is just like, yeah, I know this, you don't know. But yes, I would suggest it. I feel like if you want to get insight on how you could, like if a teen wanted to get insight on how to talk to their parents, yes. Or if a parent wanted to get insight on how to actually come toward their teen and start a conversation,
right?
Yes.
Okay. And of course I would, because I have been suggesting the book and giving the book away, in situations where I felt like it could be helpful. Mother and son dynamics are really interesting, especially as they, to me, become young men and they are, pulling at that fabric to, pull away and want to be a man in the world, and but still in some ways have the nurturing moments from their mother. So it just becomes this ebb and flow, and this struggle. It's a struggle, and just being aware of their growing pains and the experiences that they're having to experience, especially as Black young men in the society. So I highly suggest it. You can get it at lulu.com/grace yourself.
The whole link.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, next question. And it's book and ebook, because Tyler felt like his generation would be more willing to purchase the ebook. So there's an ebook and a printed hard copy book available. Next question. Did you find in writing the book you were able to vent frustrations that you were not able to communicate verbally to your mother? So I guess that's for you.
Yes, but not all of them. Some things I really wanted to say, but I feel like if I say that, and I asked other people, like, if I say this, would that be like crossing the line? And they were like, yeah, I understand where y'all are coming from, but that's still like crossing the line. So yes, I vented frustrations, but could have vented a little bit more.
And then it says that you were not able to communicate verbally. So did you say things in the book through your poetry that you felt like just would not have been delivered the same way had you spoke it out?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
That's really why I felt more comfortable doing a book like this rather than actually just sitting down and having a conversation, because it's just certain things, certain emotions I have in myself, they're not gonna come out respectfully. I'm not gonna it's not gonna be like, yeah, I just feel this way. It's not. Nah. It'll be like, hey, I feel like this. So that's why I feel like it was a lot better to put it in book. That way I can find a better way to actually say it.
Yeah, and you almost have to take time.
Yeah.
You know, when you're typing and having to formulate statements,
Yeah.
you know, because I think sometimes when we start talking, we can very often just say phrases and insinuate things through our facial expressions, our body language, and we're not saying complete sentences. And so the other person, the receiver, winds up picking up on the energy of everything. And the statement or the full thought never gets said.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like, I mean, you know, I can't answer this question for him, but I do feel like I got more of his inner thoughts through his poetry than I ever would have gotten from him in a verbal conversation. So I was thankful that he did say as much as he did.
It's my turn.
Oh, sorry.
She picking questions. Which poem do you love the most from the book? I think the poem I like the most would be me explaining why I wanted a nose ring.
Wow. That pretty much started the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the first one in the book was us talking about the nose ring, because that's what started this whole idea of writing a book.
Yep. Why nose ring? Why not nose ring? Yep.
That he wanted a nose ring, and it was a conversation. It was a verbal conversation that just did not
go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere. We weren't getting to a resolve. Tyler was not hearing why not, and we weren't hearing why. So that is actually what started the whole book journey. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. For me, so there were some poems in there where I wasn't so much responding to him, but just reflecting on who he was and who he was becoming. And there were things that I was reflecting on of what I was observing as a mother. Do you have a nose ring?
Not yet. But I'm gonna get a nose ring.
But he's 18, so he can do that now. He doesn't have to ask. But at 14 and 15, it was just like, but what? But what we doing? Why we want to do that? But yeah, there were some poems in there where I was speaking just as a mother and reflecting on the observation I was seeing as far as my son in his metamorphosis stage. You know, he was evolving. He was not my little Tyler anymore, you know, and so there's several of them, but if I were to choose one in particular, I think it's the one where I talk about you are the lion. So there's one where, again, just me as a mom, just really, you know, from all our little conversations, from how the poem was coming together, just understanding as a mother how powerful he really was in his gift, and his thought process and everything. And so I think that was one that I just, it didn't even matter if he responded or not. Like I needed to make sure that it went down in history, you know, my words from a mother's heart as far as what I was seeing my son become.
I did like that poem.
Let's see.
Another book should be coming on.
Wow, did y'all hear that? We got it on. Say it again.
Another book should.
Another book what?
Should.
Wait, say it again.
Be coming.
Another book should be coming. We got it. We got it on record.
Oh,
He's
man.
willing to write again. Yay. That's great. Thanks, Carolyn Owens, for that comment.
Question.
Okay, my question. What were the challenges during this project?
There were a lot of challenges when it came to this. Because it took us so long to actually write the book,
Yeah.
it was different things going on.
Yeah, life was happening.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was actually within myself, just like being comfortable enough to be like, yeah, this is probably something that I need to say because I haven't said it. And like, yeah, it was just getting to that point where I felt actually comfortable trying to come to my mom. Speak to my mom on that type of point.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot that was happening.
Yeah.
And not everything was so copacetic. So, yeah, that was the biggest challenge for me.
And I think for me, the challenges, for one, it was really keeping my composure and allowing him to empty out, to write and say what he needed to say. The only rule we had going into the book was don't cuss at me. Do not use profanity.
Yeah.
But other than that, anything was, free reign as far as what he needed to say. And so, some of the things, it pierced, and it made me have to sit and rest in his truth, because those were his words and they weren't changing. Those were his words. He thought about it, he typed it out, he walked away saying, yeah, that's what I want to say. And so that was with every poem, that is what I had to sit with. And so there were times where I had to sit. I had to sit. I had to pray. And I really had to ask God, what now, as a mother, as a woman in prayer, as someone who sees more in my son than he may see at this moment, how do I respond to this? And so it took some time with some of my responses, because of just really having to hear his emotions, accept his emotions, and process his emotions and how they were affecting my emotions. So yeah, there definitely weren't immediate responses. There were times where he would write a poem and he would let me know, hey, I added a poem, and then I may take another week or so before I responded, because I just needed to sit in it and absorb it, and so I think the challenge for me, so I'm really strong in administration, I'm really goal oriented. So I think the biggest challenge for me was how long it was taking us to finish the book. I had the goals in mind for myself as far as what we initially agreed on, but then again, life was happening. We're sitting outside in our backyard, y'all, so sorry for the plane going over. I'll wait. Hopefully they're not hovering, looking for. But I think that was probably the hardest piece for me, is just letting the time be what the time needed to be, and not worrying about what the goal in my book was as far as this is when I want to publish this book. Well, I'm not the only one writing. I'm not the only one experiencing this book. So, based on my goals, we would have finished in 2016, but life did not dictate it to be so. And so, it didn't actually self-publish until like August 2018, but the essence and the substance of the poems really reflect that time frame from 2016 to 2018 as far as the time it took. And so, that was my biggest challenge, just having to release the timeline that I set in my head. I don't know who turned it is.
Were you surprised at the response from the other within any of the poems in the book? Surprised. I would say yes, but I was. I was.
What surprised you? or why?
See, I'll have to. Okay, it's a certain one where I was just like, wasn't expecting that. What was it?
While he's looking, I'm gonna say that I knew going in the book project that, I knew what I had told him as far as like, say whatever you got to say, just don't cuss. I knew I had said that. I don't think I was expecting him to be as transparent or as vulnerable as he allowed himself to be in some of the poems. And so, again, with some of them, I just had to sit in it like, oh, wow, And so, yeah. I was definitely surprised several times with some of his poems and words.
I think this one.
Well, just read a piece of it.
So this is The Rhythm Is Off on page 71 by her. The rhythm is off, and I see it pretty clearly. The rhythm is off, and I love you so dearly. The rhythm is off. It's very hard to observe. The rhythm is off. It's not what we deserve. The rhythm is off, but I can't make the beat alone. The rhythm is off, but I can't force you home. The rhythm is off, so I'll keep praying for a tune. The rhythm is off. I'll let God have room to fix what I can't, to mend what's torn, to give another melody, to birth words unborn. Bars up. Bars.
Oh gosh.
Bars.
So he didn't think I had it in me. Is what he really saying.
Oh.
That was toward the end of the book. Yeah, that was toward the end of the book. And we were in a season when the book actually published. Tyler was not living with us. He had decided after after being given an ultimatum to move out. And again, that's 2018. So he was 16. And so again, as a mother, it's like, that one of those tough love seasons where I gotta let him feel it, but that doesn't change what I felt it did to the dynamic of our relationship. So that's really where that poem came from. And here I am. We're still doing the book, but in two different places. Yeah. Like the rhythm was off. Yeah. The rhythm was off, and it was just echoing. So it's interesting to hear to hear what he's saying about that poem and where I was when I wrote it. But it's real conversation, real dialogue. So yeah. Okay, next question. Do you feel like the writing helped open the lines of communication?
Yes. I feel like if it weren't for certain things that were discussed here, we wouldn't be able to conversate on some of the things we do now. Like if it really wasn't for this book, I feel like a lot of decisions that were made would not have been made later on. Like especially when it came to me.
Wow.
I feel like if I wouldn't have actually finished this, I probably wouldn't have came back to the house.
Wow. So none of this is practiced or scripted. Yeah. So however he's responding, however I'm responding is fresh out of our mouths and off our hearts and out of our minds. So that's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. See, those are the moments where I just have to sit in it. Like, wow. Because truth be told, we published in August 2018, and you came home December.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm not gonna cry.
You better not cry.
Okay. Do you feel like writing helped open the lines of communication. So for me, again, I think it was probably more him, as far as feeling like now he can say more. I was always willing to hear, always willing to communicate. I think the book gave us a place where, you know, he can't change my words. He can't walk away. Like, what I have to say is on paper. You have to read it because it's in the book. So I think it didn't change my line of communication. It changed the mode of communication. So I know now that if I can't get him to hear me verbally, that we have this other mode of communication through poetry, through words and lyrics and all of that, where I may be able to have him hear me beyond my words, so, or beyond what I say. So yeah, I think it just really, for me, broadened the means of communication to reach him, and it was his language. You know, it was a language that we shared. Because I had always written poetry, I had never considered doing a book of poetry, but then when he showed, you know, interest in it, and again in that season where it just seems like he was so balled up and filled with emotion and things he needed to get out, it just made sense at the time. And so I'm glad it was that effective for him to just say what he said. Like, that is, I love God. He's awesome.
Me too. Okay. Are there any poems you wish you could rewrite or delete? Yes.
Why?
I feel like no. I wanna rewrite the one. Hold on. Where is it?
Look at the titles.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to delete any of them because they were all very real in that moment.
I don't want to delete any of them either.
You want to rewrite? Oh, okay,
one.
okay.
Yeah,
now I could add to some. That's for sure. I could definitely expound on some of them.
I think I would rewrite the response to Ready to Date. I would rewrite that.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, I wasn't even really ready to date. And
I'm so glad this is being recorded. Oh my gosh.
I really was not ready to date. I was just ready to have something.
Companionship.
Yeah.
Beyond your siblings.
Yeah. And I don't even think I'm ready to date now.
Says the person
Still
who
though.
But that's because you've been out there. You have dated.
Yeah.
And now you just kind of want
yeah, I want
to pull back a little.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, let's see. Oh, what's little ones in there? Mom, where were your immediate thoughts when you read his entries? So again, stunned sometimes just taken aback at how transparent, how vulnerable he was being. You know, there were some poems that I knew he had typed in anger, you know, and so I didn't want to respond that way. And so those were moments where I would just have to sit and take it in and process through his emotions, what had happened in that moment to even make him, you know, type and be in such an angry place. So yeah, there was some times. And then, you know, a part of the book being written, we were living in the same house. I remember one time where he was very angry, you know, the energy around him, everybody in the household knew he was angry, and he, you know, stormed up the steps and sat at the computer and it was typing. And, you know, I see this happening. I observe it, but I'm not going to address it because I can tell he's not wanting to talk. He's just in an explosive state. So he's typing, and then he like jumps up from the desk, and he's like, I added another poem, and he storms off. And in that moment, my first thought was like, who you think? and then when I just stood there for a moment, I was like, I don't need to look at that poem right now. Like, I don't need to look at that poem right now. And so I think I purposely waited a couple of days before I looked at it, because I just did not want to respond in the same energy that he gave it. So it was moments like that, because it was happening real time. It was just moments where it's like, you know, when he would say I added to it, I would assess what just happened in life and what could that poem possibly be about. So there were times where I would wait, like, no, I don't need to respond. I don't need to respond. I don't need to respond right now. So yeah.
Well, you look at that.
Wow.
Will you do something like this again in the future? Most definitely. Most definitely.
He said it. He's gonna write with me again. I feel so special.
Okay, but now hear this out. I feel like we should put an S on the end of that sun.
Ooh, such a challenge. I don't know if that would be poetic. So what he just said to me is he thinks I should have a dialogue in book form with him and my other two sons.
No, just Tori. CJ
and another
could.
son. The title of that would be The Turbulent Waves. It would not be Rhythms of Emotion. Wow. I mean, I'm open. You know, he said it. We'll see what happens. But obviously there are projects to come. And I'm open because, again, for me, it's not just about writing. It's not just about producing another product, but it's about really being honest about the mother and son relationship, being honest about the fact, again, that this is a mode of communication for him that I can connect to. He hears me, you know, and so with that being said, you know, I'm definitely open to consider my other son, Tori, who is 22. That would be interesting. That would be amusing to say the least. I don't even know if it would be poetic. Could we even say that it was poems? I can see him writing. I don't know if there would be. That's going to be really interesting. So yeah, more projects to come.
That would be interesting in general, but I feel like if we were to do that, we would have to pick who we were responding to once we respond to it. Because he might say like, hey, like it might be one toward me.
So you're saying
like all of us just.
Oh, so even like brother to brother dialogue. Woo. That would be in chapters, y'all.
That would be in chapters.
Oh my goodness. Okay. To be continued. Okay, next question. What do you feel like you gained in this whole project? I think you said something about that earlier, but
yeah. Clarity in so many ways.
That's a good word.
Clarity in so many ways. It's just it helps for teens to understand how their parents think. Because not only does that help you understand their thought process and actually conversate with them when you do disagree with them, but it just helps being able to actually connect with them. A lot of kids, especially I know, a lot of kids don't have a solid connection with their parents where they can come to them and talk to them. So it's good that I do, because I can help people kind of, you know, help understand their parents. Like anytime somebody does bring a problem to me, I can say like, well, how do they usually respond to something like this? Or what do you think they would say if you did this? And that just gives me some insight to it. Now that might not be the full way that they think, but it gives me some insight so I could at least give them some tips on how to conversate with their parents, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what helped me the most.
And ironically, I was going to say the exact same word is clarity. because again, to sit back and watch him walk around and get up every morning and be balled up, like, and I'm not saying balled up physically, but just his countenance was balled up. I could tell that he was holding and that at some point it was going to be explosive. And so just having clarity on how he processes his emotions, how he deals with things that go unspoken, has given me clarity. So now I feel like as he moves around the house, I'm more likely to address his quiet times, and watch his body language and his facial expression even more now than I did then, because I know there's something brewing, or I know there's something he's processing through. And so to know that in those moments then, there were books of words, literally, that needed to be expressed. I'm always just making sure that he has the tools he needs, whether it's another, journal to write out his words, or some type of project to just keep his words pouring out so that he's never in that explosive place anymore.
Is it your turn? It is your turn.
Oh, it is my turn. No, I pulled that one out. I read that one.
Oh, okay. Were your writings your own feelings or emotions, or those of your peers? It depends on, because some of the poems were things that I know me and my brothers have felt, and some of the poems were, of course, just me. So, yes, some responses were of me and my family,
the experience.
Yeah. But it wasn't more so my peers. Everything that I'll write is gonna be my own words and how I feel. But yes.
I know for sure that there were a few that I added to the book from a mother's heart, knowing that I'm not the only mother with a Black son in America who feels this way, or who sits back and observes their child evolving into a young man. So there were definitely some that I added that hopefully represented more than just me as a mother, but other Black mothers in the world. So yeah. And we've gotten that response back from readers too.
Yeah.
Have you, or will you, discuss, reflect on book and what's next for the both of you? So yeah, I think we were saying that. I know that I have several other projects happening, and he has
so many things. There are so many things. For books, I don't know if I would release a book myself. Of course, I'm gonna be releasing
a collaboration.
But my main focus right now is music. So when you guys want an album, be headed your way.
So definitely projects happening. And again, on this live, he actually said there's another book collaboration, maybe even two. So
okay, I think I'm glad we saved this question for last. How has life changed since writing the book?
Wow.
So where you want to start from? You want to start from when we released it, or just?
You can if you want.
Okay. How has life changed?
You came back. You said that.
Yeah, I came back to my parents' house. Graduated high school.
That was awesome.
Working. What else? If you want to talk dynamics, there's a lot of change.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a much better relationship with my parents now. And not only because of the book, but some of the things that I learned from the military school I was in. It's just it.
And you said the time when you were out, when you left the house during that season.
Yeah, it's easier to understand people when you see people as people. I feel like a lot of the confusion when it comes to teenagers and their parents is, how do I talk to them? Because they see them as them, like, this is my parents.
The titles and the roles.
Yeah, I feel like that overweighs who they are. Because if you just go to your parents and just say, hey, I need to talk to y'all, the conversation might not be the easiest conversation, but if you get through it, I promise you'll have way more clarity.
Mm-hmm. How has life changed? So the crazy thing is that when Tyler and I were typing the book, no other family members knew what was being said. The book pages, the words were not being shared with the other family members, and Tyler is one of 6 children. And so the siblings had not read it. His dad had not read it until it was published and in print. And so for me to watch the responses of family members read the words and go through their emotions, both of the sisters under Tyler, both were in tears by the time they even got through the book, because it was situations that they were living out too. And so I think it really triggered those moments. And then here's their big brother, like, saying it for them, as you said earlier, you know, kind of saying the words that none of the siblings could mouth. And so it definitely opened up a lot of emotional baggage, I think, from his siblings, where they had to kind of face and deal with some of their emotions in the times, as far as the dynamic of the household at those moments. And then even I feel like it did shift the relationships that those siblings, the ones who've read the books, had with me, because not only were they reading Tyler's words, but they were reading my response to what he was saying. And so I think that's what pushed them through the book, because they would read something he would say and then be like, oh my God, what did mama say? Yeah. You know, because of just knowing that had he verbalized that in front of me,
it would have been a different
there would not have been a conversation. So I think it was moments like that where they read through the book, and I think it gave them a different perspective on who I am and where my heart is about just helping them navigate through the seasons of their life. You know, it's not about, I'm not trying to dictate, I'm not trying to control, I'm trying to help you process through what you're going through in that moment. And so I think that definitely, and again, as a mother, to know what he was holding on to and what he felt he couldn't express verbally, and that he had the freedom to express through this book, again, as a mother, just made me more aware of the times when any of my kids get quiet and pull away. That while there's one part that says, well, I don't want to infringe on their quiet time, there's another that's like, no, I need to know what he's thinking about. I need to know where she is, you know, what she just saw, or whatever. So I feel like as a mother, it changed for me as far as making sure I do more check-ins with my kids, you know, whether something is happening in society or just me not being sure of what they may be experiencing with their friends and things like that. It's social media, what may have influenced or impacted them on social media. So I feel like I do more check-ins since the book than I was doing before that, just to make sure they're all in a good place and know that the line of communication is there. So that was our last question.
Another thing that I could say has changed is learning how to actually listen. Because one thing that I can say about writing this book that helped, I feel like whenever you write something to somebody, whether you text it or you're actually writing it, they always have to figure out what type of context and tone of voice you're using. So they have to think it through more clearly to understand what you're actually saying. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to listening, you kind of got to be able to do the same thing, especially when it comes to listening to your parents. Because you could listen and just be like,
here they go again.
Yeah, but if you actually listen and hear what they're saying, you're like, okay. So yeah, I feel like that's another thing that has changed.
Yeah.
Definitely. Being able to actively listen.
Right. That's really good. So this has been amazing for more reasons than I can count. I don't get this kind of time with Tyler because he's 18 and, you know, trying to navigate this young adult life and everything.
That's not true.
This has been amazing. As a co-author, you know, we've been talking about sitting down and doing something like this since the book was published.
True.
But again, you know, life has been life. And I'm just excited. I'm excited. I'm really
Rhythm
excited.
of a Mother and Sons.
Oh,
Sons.
the next project, the sequel, volume 2, and probably 3.
Maybe 4.
Thank you guys for chiming in. Of course, the live video, the recording will be on the book page. Feel free to share it out. Continue to send us questions and everything. Maybe he'll do this again. Rhythms of a Mother and Son is still available on online retail book sites like Amazon. It was published through lulu.com/grace yourself. He's excited about this because, of course, when you do purchase the book, half of the profit goes to this one. So support a young Black man, 18, trying to navigate this new season of life.
That should be the like a coupon.
Thank you guys. Oh my goodness.
That was fun.